Hey guys, welcome back to a new video and a new playlist in which I will deep dive into Kotlin Flows. I know I already have some videos about that, like about state flow, shared flow, like how they compare, and I think also a video about flows in general. But I thought that I don't really have a video that really deep dives into flows and that really covers everything from A to Z. And since I found flows to be super important for Android development, because I use them pretty much every day, I think it's actually helpful to have a dedicated playlist for flows, so you can actually watch that from the beginning to the end, and then you will actually know everything you need in practice. So this playlist will consist of 3 videos in total. In the first video, which is this one, you will learn just what a flow is and how we can actually use it, how we can observe values from it. Then in the second video, I will actually deep dive into flow operators. Don't worry if you have no idea what that is. In the second video, you will know. And in the third video, I will actually also go into state flow and shared flow a little bit more in detail. So yeah, you can also understand these. So let's actually start with a little bit of theory, which is actually necessary to understand flows. So what is actually a flow in Kotlin? If you're familiar with the term reactive programming, then it's basically that. If you're not familiar with the term reactive programming, let me explain that first. So it's basically all about being notified about any changes in your code and then doing something with these changes. So we want to transform these, notify maybe our UI layer to update it and stuff like that. But in the end, you can think of it just like an assembly line for, let's say, Android phones. So in the first thing that happens is that the Android phone is produced. So the basic prototype is produced. Then we're notified about that. So that is the first part of the reactive programming paradigm, that we're actually notified about a change. So about the production of the Android phone. Then we're actually not done yet because we want to do further steps with that. So it's actually put on the assembly line, and then as it moves forward, we actually do something with it. So in the first step, we might want to give it a color. Then in the second step, we might want to package it. And then in the third step, we just put it in a big box so it's actually ready to be shipped. And in Android, it's nothing else, or in Kotlin rather. Kotlin Flows are just a framework to do exactly that with our code. So a real world example where this would be applied would be, let's say you make an API request, you get the response, you kind of want to map the response to something else that you actually want to display in your UI. Maybe you get a list and you want to filter it first, so you only get a specific type of entries in that list, and in the end you show that in your UI. So it's basically a pipeline of actions that you apply before you actually display something in the UI or before you actually do something, some kind of final step. Now getting to the more technical part here, a flow is in the end just a Kotlin coroutine that is able to emit multiple values over a period of time. So a single coroutine, a single suspend function, can only return a single value. So if you have a function, then of course you can only have that return statement, that single return statement. And if your code reaches that point, then the function is over. However, if you want to do something like a countdown timer that emits a value every single second, then you can't do that with a normal coroutine, because how are you going to be notified about a specific value every single second? And that is where Kotlin Flows actually come into play, because with that, we can actually do stuff like that. And I think this is actually a very good starting point here to just create a very simple countdown timer using a Kotlin Flow, and then you will actually get a very first understanding of how this will work. So let's actually jump into Android Studio. So I am in an empty Jetpack Compose project here. If you have no idea of Jetpack Compose, don't worry, this playlist will not really use it a lot. Here we are just going to use it to display a number, and that's all UI related stuff we will actually do here in this playlist. So even if you don't know it, just follow this playlist. The focus is really on flows. So let's first of all actually create a view model here, just to have some kind of structure. So in our root package, I will create a main view model, select class, and it will just contain our flow logic. Nothing special here. Let's make that inherit from view model. And now, as I said, we want to have a flow that has some kind of starting value for our timer, for our countdown timer, and then basically counts down by 1 second and notifies our UI about that change. That is what we want to do. So let's first actually take a look at how we can create such a flow. We can do that just using val here, like a normal Kotlin property. Val flow, or let's call it countdown flow. Countdown flow. Maybe like that, rather. And then we have a so-called flow builder. That is just a normal builder block. So this flow with this lambda block here. And we have to declare a type. That will be the type of the values we want to emit over time. Since we have a countdown timer, well, we want to emit numbers. So in the end, integers. And now inside of this block, you can see this is a flow collector of type int now. Inside of this block, we can pretty much emit values over time. So this is in the end a coroutine. We can execute suspend functions inside of this block, which we're actually going to do now. So let's actually start by just declaring, a starting value. So let's say val starting value, which is the value our countdown starts at, let's say at 10 seconds. Then we also want to have a current value that basically counts down. That must be a var because we want to change it every second. So var current value is equal to starting value. So that is just that we start at 10 seconds and then we can now have a loop in which we count down. So let's have that loop, simply a while loop. And as long as the current value is actually greater than 0, we want to count down. I think it's pretty clear till now. So what do we actually want to do in this loop? Well, we want to delay the coroutine this flow is actually running in. So that's the cool part now, that we can execute these suspend functions. So we can say we delay this execution here by 1 second, by 1000 milliseconds, before we actually do something. Before we say current value minus minus to just decrease it by 1. And then we now somehow want to notify our UI about that change. We want to say, hey, our current value, our current second actually just decreased. Please show that in the UI. So let's do that by using emit. So that is the function we actually have in this flow collector here. And we can now emit an integer value here. And whenever we call emit in our flow, our UI in the end will receive that change. Or it doesn't always need to be the UI. It can also be some other part of code, but it's typically the UI layer that wants to just be notified about any changes that require some asynchronous actions. So you want to say emit current value because we just decrease it and then we emit that. We can also emit before the while loop, so we actually also emit the starting value. Otherwise, it will actually start at 9 in this case in our UI. So we just say emit starting value. All in all, we just start at 10. We set the current value to 10. We emit 10, so our UI will then show 10 in the text view. And as long as the current value is actually greater than 0, we want to run our timer. We say, okay, we wait a second. After a second, we decrease the value. And we say, okay, UI layer, we actually changed the value. Please now show 9 instead. And now let's jump into main activity and actually show that to see how this works. Let's just have a box to center this text. We can say modifier is modifier, fill max size. And then we say we have a text. And well, what do we now show here in this text? In the end, we want to show every single emission. So if you're a little bit familiar with Compose, you know that we need that kind of as a state, because that will make our UI redraw. If you don't know Compose, that's basically how it works. Don't worry about this part now. We can basically just say val viewModel first. We want to get a reference to our viewModel is equal to viewModel. If you don't have that, by the way, that needs to be a main viewModel. If you don't have this function, then make sure you actually include this dependency. That just brings it. And then with this viewModel, we can actually now get our flow as state. So that is just a function to transform that to state. As I said, I will also show you the other way to actually get these changes if you don't use Compose. But here we're just going to say val, let's say val number or val time, I think is better, is equal to viewModel, countdown flow, and we can say collect as state. And we need to provide an initial value, which is 10 here. And that is now our integer value that is changed every single time our countdown flow actually counts down. So we can say, okay, the text is time.toString. Let's increase the font size a little bit to, let's say, 30 SP. And we want to make sure it's centered. So modifier actually align center. And that is it. Let's actually launch that in our emulator and see if this actually works. So here we go. Okay, the app is launching, and oh, I actually made a mistake. It's not time.toString, it's actually time.value.toString, because otherwise we refer to the state and not to the value of the state. So let's relaunch that quickly. And now we see 10, 9, 8, and you can see the countdown is working pretty good. So that is how we can actually do that with Compose. But very often you don't want to do that either in Compose or in your UI layer. And you still want to be notified about changes of a specific flow. Let's jump into our main view model for that. And write a function here that actually collects that flow. So that is how we call it when we actually listen to these changes. So we basically just, we're just notified about each change. Let's do that with a private function, collect, maybe collect flow. And since that is actually a suspending action here to collect that, we want to execute that in a coroutine. So when I say view model scope that launch, and here we can say flow, actually countdown flow dot collect. You can see we have collect and we have collectLatest. What the difference is, I will actually also get to in this video, but let's actually start with collect, which is the more simple one of these. And here we now get the time value. So this block is now triggered every single time when we call emit here in our flow. So we could simply say print line, the current time is, and then simply insert our time. Making sure that we also call this function, so collect flow. And if we then relaunch our app and actually this time take a look in logcat and search for the current time is, then you can see it's actually working exactly the same way. So that is how we can collect flows if we don't use the compose state. Please don't just do it like this in your UI layer. Don't just use lifecycle scope.launch and then collect it. This is more difficult if you want to do this, and I will get to this stuff later in this playlist. But if you just want to listen to changes like in your view model, then doing it like this is totally fine. Now, as I said, there is also collectLatest, which is also commonly used actually. What is the difference now to collect? So if we just take collect, then this is executed for every single emission of this flow. Well, collectLatest in and of itself will also be executed. I mean, this block will also be executed for every single emission, but there is a major difference. If this block here, for some reason, takes some time and is not finished yet, and we get a new emission, then the block will be cancelled. So it will only actually execute the last emission in the end. So let me show you something to actually demonstrate this. If we add a delay block in here, because that in the end is also a suspend function, let's say we delay this by 500 milliseconds, so half a second. Oh no, you know what? Let's actually do it a little bit more. Let's say 1.5 seconds. So this block will actually take roughly 1.5 seconds to finish. However, new emissions are coming in every single second. So there are more emissions coming in than we actually can process at a time. And what collectLatest will now do is it will cancel the old running emission if there is a new emission coming in. So you will see how that works in our logcat in a moment. If we use collect like that and we launch it, then it will look pretty much the same as before, just that every emission is just delayed by 1.5 seconds. You can see it just takes a little bit longer to actually collect these emissions, but in and of itself, it just works exactly the same. However, if we say collectLatest, and we relaunch this, then you will see nothing happens. But if we wait for a moment, then you can see now we get the current time is 0. So we only actually get a single emission here if we use collectLatest. The reason is simply because let's take the example of the first emission, which is 10. So this is triggered with the value of 10. We delay this for 1.5 seconds, and after that we would print this. But because we delay this for so long, and another value is actually coming in after 1 second, but we delay it for 1.5 seconds, this block is actually cancelled, so it will never reach that print line statement. And only for that very last emission in this case, which is 0, there is no emission that comes afterwards. So the last block is not cancelled, and it will actually print that. And now you might wonder, why would that be helpful? Well, in this countdown timer, it wouldn't be helpful, because we of course want to have every single value of that countdown. However, if you have some kind of flow that reflects your UI state, then collectLatest definitely makes sense, because in your UI, you always want to show the very latest state, and you don't want to show a previous state just because it takes a little bit more time to process. So you can roughly say that for all one-time events, like a countdown timer, which is in the end, just a one-time thing when a value is actually counting down, for that you can use collect. And for actually reflecting UI state, you can use collectLatest. But as I said, I will also get more into that in the last video of this playlist, where I will talk about state flow and shared flow, which is more about these events and state. And finally, something that is also worth mentioning here is that a normal flow, like we actually have here, is a so-called cold flow. So cold flow means this is in the end doing nothing. It doesn't do anything as long as there are no subscribers. So as long as there are no functions or scopes here that collect something from that flow. Just as soon as that happens, as soon as we call this line, this flow will actually do something. And that is basically what a cold flow means. On the other side, a hot flow would be also emitting values, even if there are no collectors. But yeah, we will find some and get to know some hot flows as well in this playlist. So actually be tuned for that. And as soon as the next video is out, which is about flow operators, so how we can actually transform results from a flow, then you will actually be able to simply click here and watch that.